The theater leader stops her to prevent her capture, leaving her to escape with the troupe. At the same time, the authorities take her lover and baby away. In colonial Indochina in the 1930s, Frenchwoman Eliane de Vries is the daughter of a wealthy widower magnate, Emile. Together, they manage an expansive rubber plantation, employing many local laborers whom Eliane refers to as coolies. Years earlier, she had become the adoptive mother of the Princess of Annam, Camille, whose birth parents, Prince Nguyen and his wife, died in a plane crash. Since she had no children, she willingly raised her in honor of her fallen friends. She raised her alone on the plantation, educating her in the lavish European lifestyle. Emile has always been enamored by Camille's beauty, though his intentions are seemingly not pure at first glance. One lovely afternoon, a boat race is arranged to entertain the elites. Emile and his crew of workers win the competition, much to the consternation of the young French Navy lieutenant, Jean-Baptiste Le Guen, who rows for the opposing team. After winning a bet against the Navy admiral, Eliane and her friend, Yvette, attend an auction to bid for pieces of artwork. Coincidentally, Lieutenant Le Guen is also present and begs Eliane to retract her bid for a painting they both like. She becomes aghast when he challenges her publicly even though she wins the picture. The defeated lieutenant lingers with his humiliation at night, expressing his anger by burning a local fisherman's boat for disobeying the curfew. As morning dawns, the lieutenant grows suspicious and appears at Eliane's plantation to locate the occupants of the ship he set ablaze, believing they are secretly smuggling opium. Eliane confirms this, though she defends their actions and has dealt with them accordingly. She tours Le Guen around the property while also nursing his bleeding nose. The pair almost kiss, but Eliane rejects his advance. Eventually, after convincing herself to fall in love again, she accepts Le Guen into her household in Saigon and starts an affair with him. However, their romance is discovered by Emile, who has always been protective of Eliane. Feeling exhausted with him, Le Guen angrily offers to buy her away from him for a large amount of money before leaving the house. This interaction is seen by the caretaker, Old Chung, though he keeps mum about it to Eliane. In the evening, Le Guen gambles to earn the dowry Emile asks for. Eliane appears and frantically asks him to stay, but he denies her to keep her in the dark about his true intentions. However, he regrets this and chases her car to ask for forgiveness. They make love, but Le Guen leaves afterward without saying a word. A new day arrives, and Camille's childhood friend and suitor, Tan, returns from Paris after getting expelled because of his involvement in protesting during the Yen Bay mutiny. Eliane and Tan's mother have been discussing the children's future, believing their ties must bind with marriage. One day, Eliane and her father are about to attend a joyous celebration called the Day of Tranquility when they witness the Indochina Mandarin getting assassinated by an unknown assailant. Things turn chaotic as one of their rubber storage houses is burned down, most likely done by communist fighters. All the workers evacuate, but seeing no more danger, Eliane bravely walks inside the factory and restarts the machinery with Emile to encourage everyone to return to work. After the situation gets under control, she fires her friend, Yvette, from the plantation, primarily out of concern for her family's safety. Unfortunately, Yvette becomes enraged, hastily storming off with her belongings and wishing ill will to Eliane. Meanwhile, Guy, the head of security, threatens his mole to continually infiltrate the communist meetings or face prison. Later, a commotion is heard on the streets as a suspected terrorist flees from captivity. He is shot by the inspector, though Camille becomes an unintended target. Lieutenant Le Guen witnesses this and carries Camille away to an embroidery shop, where he wipes away the blood smeared on her clothes. She thanks her savior and falls in love with him at first sight. At night, she vaguely confesses her feelings for another man to Eliane, who becomes shocked learning she has fallen for her lover. By Christmas, Eliane throws a party at their residence. Camille hopes the lieutenant will arrive and be her date, but he does not attend. As the dinner begins, Emile plays music with his record player, inciting the guests to dance. Eliane notices Camille looking sorrowful, so she encourages her to dance with the steps she taught her during her free time. The pair soon amuse the crowd with their moves as Le Guen arrives late. Camille attempts to rush over to him but is stopped by Guy to allow Eliane to privately talk with the lieutenant on the balcony. Le Guen sadly informs Eliane he has been ordered to transfer to Haiphong to undertake new duties. However, he suspects her doing this due to her connections with high-ranking Navy officials. She confesses that he must keep her away from Camille, believing he will eventually give in to her. The pair continually argue with each other until the lieutenant slaps her in front of his fellow officers and Camille. Much to the young girl's disappointment, the admiral escorts him from the party. Later in the evening, Guy fetches Eliane in an opium den where she is trying to forget the events that transpired at the party. The following morning, 10H's mother tries to console a sober Eliane, encouraging her to forget about Le Guin. She hopes to have Camille and her son married immediately, despite the resentment the young girl now feels for Eliane. Later she finds out that the lieutenant was sent to the notorious Dragon Island in Ha Long Bay, a remote French military base in northern Indochina, for his uncouth behavior at the party. He meets a colleague who has been staying on the island for a very long time and gets a tour of the outpost. Meanwhile, Eliane visits Camille at the palace on her wedding day, arranged by the groom's family. The young bride has slowly accepted her fate, though she confesses she dreams of achieving more outside royalty. Though the wedding binds the couple, Camille is allowed by Tanh to travel away to search for Lieutenant Le Guin up north. Eliane discovers this, realizing no one can stop her as she is genuinely in love. Camille ventures toward Dragon Island and sees a Vietnamese family escape the clutches of a ruthless Frenchman. She can come with them as they travel on foot going north. The group arrives at the town center, struggling to get sustenance from the church's daily rations. Meanwhile, Tanh is reprimanded by his mother for losing Camille, but he insists that she has made the right choice to free herself from oppression. Eventually, Camille and her traveling companions arrive safely at Ha Long Bay, where they immerse themselves with other Vietnamese laborers hauled in ships to be transported to the Dragon Island outpost. Lieutenant Le Guin arrives at the outpost the following day to check in with his superiors. He becomes stunned to see Camille grouped with the workers, prompting him to save her. However, the young girl grows hysterical when she sees the family she traveled with tortured and murdered. The French officers struggle to subdue her until Camille grabs a firearm and fatally shoots one of them. The guards take her away while Le Guin defies orders and tries to save her. Later, the inspector, Castellani, embroiled in the chaos at the outpost, furiously reports the matter to Guy and Eliane, branding Camille as a terrorist. Guy offers to handle the case discreetly, leaving Eliane in a quandary on what to do. Meanwhile, Camille awakens on a boat driven by Le Guin as he tries to safely transport her across Ha Long Bay. The pair spend some days adrift in the Gulf of Tonkin until they reach land and are rescued by a communist theater troupe. Aware of what they have done, they offer the couple sanctuary in a temple located on a remote mountainside. As they rest, Camille advises the lieutenant to seek pardon with Guy to absolve his actions. He decides to stay behind to look after the young girl. 4 months pass, and the search for the couple has become futile. Inspector Castellani implores Guy to call off the investigation. However, the security head is hopeful they will still be found somewhere. He later takes Eliane for a night out in the bar, where they meet with Yvette, who is now a cabaret performer. Eliane leaves abruptly after being reminded of Camille's absence. She pleads with Guy to continue finding her as they walk the streets. Unbeknownst to them, Camille had become pregnant with Jean-Baptiste's child. Still, Tanh, now a high-ranking communist officer, tells the couple they must vacate the premises and sneak into China. With the help of the theater troupe, Le Guin and Camille are smuggled out of the valley. During an evening theatrical performance, Camille's water breaks, forcing the lieutenant to rush her away to a cottage and give birth with the help of a midwife. Simultaneously, an insurrection occurs, as the townsfolk burn down the Mandarin's palace to support the French government. With these incidents rising, Guy convenes with his operatives to execute Operate Malira, which aims to capture all theater groups in the north of Tonkin. Meanwhile, after days of traveling, the couple and the troupe are nearly 5 hours away from the Yunnan province of China. They rest near the river, where Le Guin takes his newborn son to get baptized in the water while Camille still sleeps. After christening the baby Etienne Marie Loic, he is surprised to see several French soldiers nearby. A frantic Camille tries to call out to him. Still, the theater leader stops her to prevent her capture, leaving her to escape with the troupe. At the same time, the authorities take her lover and baby away. Despite this setback, Camille and Le Guin's story is told in Tuong performances by Vietnamese actors, deeming them legends in the eyes of the locals while also bestowing Camille the title Red Princess. Guy brings Eliane to see one of the performances one night, only to have the theater production dismantled while he reveals Camille's current situation in Polo Condor prison. Eliane becomes distraught when she is told there is no power high enough to get her pardoned. The following day, she heads to a nunnery where an officer turns over custody of Etienne to Eliane. Elsewhere, Guy meets with the Navy Admiral to get Lieutenant Le Guin out of prison, but he refuses to have him interrogated by police. Instead, the Navy plans to court-martial him in Brest, France, to avoid the public outcry likely arising from a trial in Indochina. Eventually, the lieutenant agrees to talk if he will be allowed to see Etienne. He later arrives at the estate, informing Eliane he has 24 hours to be with his son before being taken to France. She allows him to stay at her Saigon residence for the night. The following morning, Eliane visits the residence but becomes horrified to see Le Guin dead from a headshot. She rushes to angrily castigate Guy, who she suspects arranged for the police to murder him. Still, Yvette tells her the communists may have done it to silence Le Guin. With no evidence to prove anything, the lieutenant's death is deemed a suicide. Eliane keeps her promise and raises Etienne on her own. 5 years pass, and the Popular Front comes to power, forcing Guy to relinquish his position. Eventually, all political prisoners are released, including Camille. Eliane reunites with her at the quarry. However, the young woman refuses to return to her mother and son, instead choosing to fight for Vietnam's independence. Though heartbreaking, she reasons that French colonialism has ended and wishes Etienne a better life in France. Eliane breaks down as she leaves. Days later, she sells her plantation and goes to Indochina while Emile stays behind and re-employs her workers. In 1954, Eliane was in Switzerland for the Geneva Conference with a grown Etienne as she finished telling the story of her time in Indochina. She tells him to meet Camille, now a Vietnamese Communist Party delegate, and reunite with his birth mother. However, the hotel is so crowded with people that he is unsure how Camille can find or recognize him, leading him to forego his search. He declares Eliane his mother, making her pause momentarily to think. A day later, North and South Vietnam are inaugurated, free from French influence after 15 tumultuous years. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.